We're recording. You have a song for us? We can't play a song. Copyright laws. It's copyright laws.
It's a guy that I used to work with. This is his band.
I can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything.
No.
Wow. Oh, it's probably because the mic drowns out
The outside noise. You had a good mic. You got good gains on that mic.
Dude, that's crazy because I was
No,
like
I heard
blasting
nothing.
this.
Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe when we listened back, it was blasting, but I didn't hear any music.
No way. Dude,
I swear to
that's
God.
crazy. Dude, like, do you hear it clicking on like this speaker?
No.
Like, this is the speaker. You didn't hear that click on. Wow.
I also have two wash machines. I have a wash machine and a dryer going on. There's a lot of chaos down here right now.
Wow, that's crazy. That's okay though. All right. Well, it's this guy's band, and he is in a rock band, and the music
Is it a
is
rock band?
angry, very angry. And I think that it would
Wait,
have
can
been
we
a
get
great
his permission
intro.
to play it? We could do
Yeah,
that, right?
I could text him. Yeah.
Yeah, get his permission. Is it good?
It's
Sorry.
just like it's like
It's
like it's and it does that again.
Because to your point, we need an intro song, right?
Yeah,
That's the
it's like a great like angry intro, and I'm really upset that I'm not able to play it right now.
well, we can tell him as long as you get like the copyright approval from him, we'll as we're playing the
Probably
song,
love for
we'll
us
give
to
him
play.
credit. We'll give him the credit. Song played by, whatever his name. Get
I
permission
can't
before you
believe
say anything.
our music didn't work, but that's okay. Maybe it's for a reason, but that's okay.
If I save this video and I listen back and it was playing the whole time, I'm gonna feel like a bozo.
Dude,
I'm gonna feel like an idiot.
It's actually gonna be awesome because you're gonna be like, that song is exactly the song I need.
Well, send it to me and I'm gonna look it up on the old YouTube. We have to make sure we don't infringe upon YouTube copyright laws. I checked the last video. We got 21 views, which I think is pretty cool that 21 people actually watched it, but I think 5 of them were me. But
so I'm gonna look up right now. I don't think he has too many views. I could be wrong.
I mean, we
Let's
don't have
see.
to dive into the trenches of this guy.
Okay, so you don't hear any of that. This is crazy. So he has 13,000. That's a lot. That's a lot for like
That's good.
a startup band. Like,
No, that's great.
It's
We'll
really
blow you
good.
up, pal. We'll
Yeah,
blow you up. We'll get
give
you
him
21
23
new...
more. Yeah.
All right, Zach, let's dive in. What's up, everybody? Tony from Polymath Finance. I'm here with my co-host,
Zachary Guy.
Zachary Guy. How you doing today, pal?
I'm doing lovely. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Went to the gym this morning. Feeling fit. Feeling thin. Someone commented on our video and said I look thin. Made me feel very good about myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if they were lying, but I felt good about it.
Yeah, that's a great compliment. You got to take that.
Always. Oh, I think I got a haircut and I shaved my beard. So I think it thinned me down. I didn't actually lose pounds, but I'll take a compliment. Tell me I look good.
You look great, and especially making me feel bad. I'm not gonna lie or anything, but I did not go to the gym.
That's okay. That's
today, okay. I'm really good at waking up though in the morning. So I was up at like 6:30, but
good for you.
Didn't make my way to the gym because 30 minutes on the phone led to 40 minutes on the phone, and then I was like, I don't want to run. Not great.
I'm with you.
Great. It was one of those days, but
we can always go tomorrow.
Always go tomorrow, or since we're doing this in the morning, we can always go tonight.
We could always go tonight. That's right. All right. If you don't mind, we're going to dive in.
Let's dive in.
All right. So the topic for today, guideline number 4, which you can download at polymathfinance.com. But guideline number 4, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. Last week, we talked about paying off high interest debt. Now we're talking about saving 3 to 6 months of expenses. So let me pull my notes over here. I'm going to read through real quickly what I have on the guidelines. So primary reason to save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. You won't have to worry about falling back into debt if something financially catastrophic happens. You just paid off your debt. You just completed guideline 3. Let's not go back to debt. Let's save some money. The other kind of reason is there's a rule of thumb that it takes roughly 3 to 6 months to find a new job. So if you were to lose your job, you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved to fall back on it. So that way you don't have to worry about, paying your bills or falling back into debt. And then finally, just another smaller reason, but you could also lump in major purchases, right? And kind of an emergency stuff. So something goes wrong in your house, something breaks in your car, you have that money set aside already. You don't have to worry about A, putting on a credit card, or B, where is that money coming from in the first place? Or talk about major purchases, going on vacation, maybe you need a down payment for a car. You have that money set aside. What I will say before I pass it over to Zach is that just be careful about what you're spending your emergency fund money on, because you don't ever want to dip
Yes.
too low. But Zach's going to dive into that. So, Zach, that's my spiel. What are your thoughts? Pass it over to you.
I love all three of those. Hopefully that all three of those situations don't happen at once, because that would be very scary for anyone.
Agreed.
But also, and I'm gonna touch on number three, like when you're dipping in for some sort of expense or some vacation, or maybe it's a new car or something, a big purchase, a laptop, whatever it might be defined as big in your eyes, you'll find yourself, I don't know if it's just me, but when I set aside 3-6 months, so I recently had a big purchase of what you can say of a another house. And
Kind
I
of,
didn't
yeah.
dip below the money that I set aside. I just never touch it. I don't know if that's just me, but once I got to that 3 or 6 months savings, like in 3 or 6 months, it might be a little different from you or me. And I just know that amount for me, I never even touch it. Like it's there for almost like a safety net of being like, I would use it for more likely I would use the 3 to 6 month on 1 or 2 rather than 3, if that makes sense. So like if I lost my job, I know that I can dip in for that monthly expenses until I find a new one. And then also what's great about having that 3 to 6 months, I'm a little bit more relaxed when I lose my job. Like I won't be so stressed out that I have to jump at the first thing that comes my way. So I think that these are great guidelines to follow. I would just be careful about using it for a big purchase, because once you get that safety net, it feels really good to have. I'll dish it back to you.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper, just talk about myself. 3 to 6, first of all, 3 to 6 months is a range. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I would say 3 months is minimum. I wouldn't necessarily say 6 months is maximum, although we could talk about other strategies, maybe in another call or maybe later on. My personal view is I feel most comfortable with 3 months. And if I can get to 6 months, then that remaining amount can be used for major purchases. I will never, to the extent I don't have to.
Oh, that's a good point.
To the extent I don't have to, I will never dip below the 3 months.
Same.
I know what that number is. And to your point, it's not even existed in my brain. Now, if I get to the 4th month or the 5th month or the 6th month of savings, right? And let's use numbers here. If you have $5,000 of savings, you multiply that by 3, that's $15,000. So let's say my emergency fund is $15,000. I won't dip below that. But if I'm able to get up to 6 months, now that's $30,000. I'm not saying I'm going to spend it on whatever I want, but let's say, my wife and I are thinking about putting a second bathroom in our basement. Well, we have a little bit of money to play with. I don't feel like, I don't feel like I have to use a credit card or take out a personal loan. I have that money set aside. And as long as it's not more than 30 grand, and we can obviously talk about what the budget should be, but as long as it's not more than $30,000, we feel better moving with that purchase, right? So to your point of not touching it at all, I think that's the goal, right? I think never touch it. But if you have to touch it, let's make sure that we're not overspending. Thoughts?
Okay, so I actually missed a little bit of your rant though. So you were just saying about the 3 to 6 months, and you were hinting on.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick recap. I was essentially saying, hey, my floor is 3 months, my ceiling is 6 months. That make sure that if I lose my job, I have 6 months of bills already paid for, but I'll never dip below that 3. So if I have to dip in for a bigger purchase that I need, right?
Yeah,
We're not going to spend that money on wants. These are only needs. I'll still never dip
I like
below,
that point.
right? And I'll even take it a
Yeah.
step further. I use the example of a bathroom just because I have 30,000 to spend, and this is an example. I don't actually have 30,000 to spend. I'm not going to spend all of that money just because it's there. I'm going to come up with a number. I'm going to get a lot of prices. This is all contracting stuff. This is actually probably Zach's wheelhouse. We're not. Zach will go on a rampage about contracting. That's for another day, Zach. Anyway, I'm ranting. What are your thoughts? Or passing it back off to you for you.
That is very important. The fact that once you get 3 or even 6 months, so what you're saying is that when you have 6 months saved, you're not afraid to pull out of it for some sort of needful expense, like you're saying, rehab of the house, or maybe paying off more debt or whatever it might be. But you're never dipping below that 3 months. I'm in the same wheelhouse there, except mine tends to stay at 3 months, and then anything over that, I'm just like, what can I use this money for to make me more? So that is just my approach. Like I have 3 months always saved, and I don't even touch that. Like it's just factored out of everything that I do. And that's just like my approach. And I like your approach too as well, because it's like concentrating on saving more and getting to that 6 month mark. And maybe that could be somebody's set it and forget it. Is 6 months is like, oh, I have 6 months. I'm good. Like gonna just pretend I don't have it. I think that's a great philosophy, and beyond of just like, let's say, beyond of just the saving aspect and getting to that point, like that's a lot of hard work. Tough to see it go when that time comes, if that's anything of. So I would hate for any of us to deal with difficulties, but let's be honest, difficulties arise,
Yeah.
and you never know what that's going to be. And having some sort of savings is going to help you be a little bit less stressed out. So
Totally agree. That's we had a pre-call before this just to pick each other's brains, and you touched on the intangibles, and I want you to dive into that. The listen, losing your job is always stressful. Everyone's different, but generally speaking, losing your job is always stressful. Don't let that get coupled with, okay, how am I going to pay for my bills? If you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved,
exactly.
you don't have to worry as much about bills being paid, and you can focus on finding a job. You actually said something really important. You said if you lose your job, you don't want to take the first job just because you need to pay your bills.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to be super picky. God forbid you were to lose your job, or maybe we're being a little too negative. Maybe you just want to transition to a new job. And so you're like, hey, I have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. I'm going to take a month off from work. And we're not suggesting this is probably terrible advice, but I'm just saying some people transition between new jobs and they take a couple months off and they have savings. Either way, losing a job, looking for a new job, knowing that your bills are going to be paid, it allows you to be a little bit more thorough or diligent about your next job.
Yeah. I'd like to jump in on that. It helps you be a little bit more clear-minded.
Yeah.
So if you lost your job and you don't have that savings, you're like, all right, what is next? You might even come off in interviews as like super like aggressive. Like, I need this, I need this, I need this.
Yeah.
But if you have a little cushion there, it's like, all right, well, maybe I can go work out, lose a little bit of the stress there, and then I'm ready for this next interview, and I'm ready to apply, and I'm ready to set myself up for my next role. I think that it does really have a big impact of stress, because when you are stressed and you can't see clearly, you are narrow-minded, versus maybe I want to change industries. Maybe I just wasn't like drawn into that industry. So if you lost your job, having that money saved could actually pivot you into a better path, in my opinion. So
I agree.
touch on that. Yeah.
No, I agree. Clear-minded. I have nothing else to add. I think that was beautifully said.
Yeah.
It will keep you clear-minded. I totally agree. Because you won't have the stress of having to worry about paying your bills.
Yeah. Now, difficulties do happen, and I've always been of the mindset, and we touched on this, like it seems to be a theme of the last conversation we had. Um, but just your situation right now isn't forever. So like even though you have a great job and you might think that that you are gonna work that job for the next 10, 15 years, it may not be the plan for you, maybe your future family, maybe your family now. Like maybe things just happen to where that's not going to be forever. So having a good cushion like that does help you pivot. Now, the 3 to 6 months, that definitely was, I believe it probably is something that was developed because that's how long it takes you to get a new job or something if you lost it. But having 3 to 6 months, like for an emergency expense too, as well, or something that you didn't really see come in, and not going back into debt, I think relates to conversation number one. But that is such a a great thing to have, especially when if something goes south and you have to accumulate more expenses, and then you're dipping into your saved amount rather than putting it on a credit card that you couldn't pay off. So that's definitely a big difference there, and could set you up later down the line for a brighter financial future.
I mean, listen, I think a core concept of personal finance is not to be in high interest debt.
Yeah.
To the extent that you could pay that off and then set yourself up with the cushion that we're talking about to never go back or to hardly ever go back. I think
Yeah.
that's going to set up, or we think that's what's going to set up your financial future for the best. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a guideline, right? It's a range. It's 3 is the floor, 6 is like kind of the ceiling. You want to lump in emergency, major purchases or other types of savings, fine. Make sure you have 3 months in there. I want to quickly touch on how to calculate that if you don't mind.
Yeah. The time. Yeah.
So
Too.
it's you have to create a budget, guys.
Mhm.
I've been saying it for over
Number
a year.
one.
Create a budget. If you need help, we'll help you do it. I'm going to say it every podcast we have. Create a budget. The
Create a
reason
budget.
you create a budget is because you need to know what your expenses are, and you need to bucket those expenses between essentials and non-essentials.
Yes.
Exactly how it sounds. Essentials, I have to pay for this on a monthly basis. If I don't, I don't have a place to stay. I don't have a roof over my head. I don't have food in my mouth. I don't have a car to drive. I don't have
Mhm.
utilities, so on and so forth. Your non-essentials is your fun money. I go out to dinner on Friday night. I go golfing on Sundays. I, need a new tire for my bike because I'm a cyclist. Whatever. You need to know what essentials are and what your
Great
non-essentials
point. That's a great
are.
point.
Thank you. You are going to multiply your essentials, that expense number, by the amount of months that you want. So let's say you have $7,000 of expenses on a monthly basis,
Okay.
but 5,000 are essentials. It's going to be the 5,000 times 3 times 4 times
Mhm.
5 times 6, because those 2,000 of non-essential expenses, if you don't have a job, and this is going to be a hard truth, you shouldn't be spending money on non-essentials. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It's the truth. That's how
Yeah.
you want to keep your lifestyle when you don't have a job. It's not going to work. So I take a step back. Zach, what are your thoughts?
That is really good stuff. Creating the budget, understanding what is an essential versus a want, that just isn't like, for me, like as you were saying that, I was going back and forth in my head about a few things. I was like, well, I pay a
Talk about
lot in like gym membership or like personal training, I was like, that's one thing I would be able to cut, like I feel like that, or just like anything that's a want that you're doing right now, that's a nice to have, but you don't need it. Those can be subtracted out. Now, if let's say that there is something like everybody's different from one person to the next, but there are some things that might be essential to somebody that aren't essential to me, like
Agreed.
It might be like medicine. It might be so that amount might be higher, but not just the amount. But I want to talk a little bit about the timeline to save this and like what it would take. So I think a good point that you brought up, you said like if you had 7,000 in expenses, but you realized that like 5,000 was the main essentials with like a house, car, childcare, that's totally different than a lot of other people. Like if you're gonna start a family, that is
Single
an
at
essential.
22 is a lot different than married at 32.
Yeah. Yeah, married with a child versus like
And another one
buying
on
a house, like all the time. Like I've never seen such crazy things. Like, because you say 7,000, that might be like, holy crap, that's a lot for somebody. But like 7,000 might be like, wow, how are you even doing that? Because I can't even spend less than that. All depending on someone's situation.
Yeah.
Because you had a high interest in high housing market, and then you had a low interest, low housing market back 5 years ago. You have childcare costs that some people are paying, which is like 2,000, sometimes even more than that a month, 2,500 a month. Like it's crazy the cost for
Great.
childcare. So
Great.
that's an essential. If you have 2 kids, 3 kids, like now we're really getting into like a big amount of money that you have to try to save.
Yes.
And so like right now, like I like your example of, let's just stick with the 5,000. Maybe it's 2,500 for the house. Maybe it's another 1,000 for vehicles, taxes, insurance, things to get you from point A to point B, and like other things involved like food.
Groceries,
I feel
gas.
like internet now is classified for me as an essential. Like it just is. Like I need it to like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a necessity. Right.
Yeah.
I would even say gym membership, depending. So I feel very
Yeah.
strongly go to the gym for my mental health. I would
Mhm.
actually include my gym membership as an essential.
Yeah.
However,
Personal
to your
training.
point, you can make the argument that maybe you don't need personal training as well. Although
Yeah.
I could be swayed. And this is why it's so important to go through the
Yeah.
budget. When you go through the budget, the first thing you do is you just type out
Categorize them. Yeah.
and then you check off what's essential and not essential. If a personal trainer is essential to you, include that in your emergency fund. You'll have it
Yeah.
paid for. It'll be saved. But go on.
Health is wealth. Health is wealth.
Health
I
as
like to
well.
say that. Yeah. It is so important because like say you were working with a personal trainer and let's say it was $500 a month and you're down 50 pounds. Like the price of that, like the
Yeah.
price of increasing your life expectancy is
You're
priceless.
talking about stress here. If you're down 50 pounds, I mean,
Yeah.
you're less stressed. Like, good for you. Keep doing personal training.
Yeah.
I'll budget for you.
Add it in. Yeah, budget for it. So that's a good point. Like if it is something like that you cannot live without, budget that in as an essential, I would make that.
No. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You shouldn't be going to a steak dinner once a week.
No, not a steak dinner.
200, $300 you could save.
No.
But mental health is a thing. So let's
Yes,
focus on that too. But continue.
I love that. So I think whether or not it is like the argument between things of being essential or non-essential, like once you got a good essential list in mind and then you have that target to pay for, I think it's important to like really understand the amount of time that will take because your target to save that $15,000 at 3 months while you're spending like 7,000, right? So you have to be able to save a little bit. So you must be bringing in, let's just say 8,000 or 9,000, a little bit above that to where you can save $1,000 a month because you're still spending on those non-essential items, And I mean, maybe you don't need to in order to kick off a good savings. I would say that maybe be aggressive, a little bit more aggressive if you're not able to save that money. Be a little aggressive when it comes to the essential versus non-essential so that way you can save that amount quicker and then you're able to spend on some of those wants that you or your family desires. I like to kind of break everything out in time. So if you're trying to save $15,000 and you're spending 7, but your essentials are 5, and you're only making, let's say, $8,000, things are tight, because you are trying to save $1,000 at the end of each month. Like that's just that percentage there is a little bit tight to be saving that. But if you do get that, you get the $1,000 every single month off of that. That's going to take you 15 months to save that 15,000. Now, if you want to double that and make it 6 months, that's going to take you 30 months. So just putting things in time is really important, I feel like, when it comes to talking about saving. Because 15 months, 30 months, that's consistency. That's, hey, I might not be able to do this want that I desire. That's what it is. It's trying to be consistent and saving as much as you can until you get to that 3, even 6 months. I feel like the 6-month number, once you get those numbers, you don't need to use it. Now it's like, okay, I'm saving more, but maybe you want to save for a nice vacation, or maybe you want to save for another type of investment, or maybe you want to save to do something nice for somebody else and like give. So there's other reasons why saving past that 3 to 6 months is great, but then you can kind of take that amount and just forget about it and know that it's there and make adjustments though to it. I said a lot there.
No, I loved everything you said. I'm so happy you had enough to say. And for everyone that's watching this, my eyes are darting over here because as you're talking, I'm putting an Excel spreadsheet together because your talk about timelines and your talk about potentially reducing those non-essential expenses to get to your target date a little bit faster. I think is brilliant. And I want to put those into numbers for people. And I'm doing 2 scenarios. The first scenario, listen, everyone, we're throwing random numbers out there. So don't take this as Bible, but like we're throwing random numbers. So our first example that we're going to go through is you're making $8,000 per month. This is after tax and deductions. You're making $8,000 per month. You're spending $7,000 per month. We talked about 2,000 being non-essentials and 5,000. Look at that, 5,000. So you have to spend $5,000 a month. You have to. That's a known fact. So if you're still spending $7,000 per month, that means you're netting $1,000 per month, and it would take you no less than 15 months if you were diligent. It would take you no less than 15 months to save the $15,000. If you were to decrease your non-essential expenses by $500, right? $500. So now you're spending $5,000 on essentials and $1,500 on non-essentials, and so that's a $6,500 expense. That means you can save up to $1,500 per month, which cuts down your savings to 10 months. You shaved off 5 months.
5 months just by 500 extra bucks.
I'll take it a step further.
That's crazy.
If you were able to get your non-essential spend down to $1,000 per month, if you were to shave off $1,000 and now you're spending $6,000 per month.
Yep. So 1,000 of wants.
1,000 of wants reduced. Thank you. You're saving $2,000 per month. You get to your target date in 7.5 months.
Yeah.
The last example is, hey, I'm only going to live off of my essentials until I get.
That's aggressive though, but it's a good approach.
I totally agree. But I'm going to focus my budget. I'm going to focus my finances on saving this 3 to 6 months. And I only spend money on my essentials. So only $5,000 is coming out of my pocket. It'll take you 5 months.
What's even crazier is it will take you 10 to get double that. So like if you had 10,
isn't that sorry, continue.
You'd have this 6 months saved in 10 months. If you just lived off your essentials there at that point.
Now, as I'm going, that's a really great point. I don't want to brush over that. Let's actually double down on that. If you really focus hard, you can accomplish your goals. It's about consistency and it's about discipline. Don't overstretch yourself. It has to be sustainable. But if you could figure out how to live off of your essentials, sustainable. If you could figure out how to live off of your expenses to get to your goal faster, and now you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, you move up. Not only do you move on to the next step of the guideline and start investing for your future, but now you have a little bit of fun money. You can feel better about spending your money on discretionary things.
That's a
I
good
want,
trait that you
I
brought
want,
up, the consistency approach. Like
dive in.
that.
I have another example to go through.
Yeah,
Dive in.
it's easier said than done. So just having some sort of mindset of you have to have the correct mindset on I'm going to do this and nothing's going to stop me. The consistency approach is going to get you far. Because without it, you might flake out, and all of a sudden you're back to square one and maybe you're spending on the credit card. So just be consistent. And I think that being consistent also comes with what you were saying before, is having an awareness of what essentials are versus non-essentials. And I think that if I were to go through the list of my expenses, I would be shocked with what I would think is essential versus not. I think that would be a tough thing for me to part way with some of the non-essential items. But the thing is if you want to set that as a goal, the only way to achieve it is to really be consistent and take that approach and really become aware of what you're spending your money on. Budgeting, understanding the needs versus wants is it's going to make it or break it with you being able to save. That
It's
was a
gonna,
great point.
it's gonna change your life. If you can write down all of your expenses on a piece of paper in Excel, I'll help you do it. Zach will help you do it.
Mhm.
And you really thumb through about
Did
what
you
you
need that? Yeah. Did you need that? Did you want that?
that. You know how easy it is to click two
Yeah,
buttons and order a couch from Amazon?
it's crazy.
It's crazy. I
And
ordered a
especially ordering it
Firewise
on plastic, there's no feeling of loss there. Like just on your credit card, there's no feeling of that loss. So
So you I always give everyone this advice when they're going through a budget. I say download a month of your bank statement, however many bank accounts you have, download your statements, download your credit card statements, and go through every line item for a month. And you tell me what's essential and non-essential. You feel like you don't have money at the end of the month? There's only two things you could do. You can either reduce your expenses and you have to thumb through what you need and what you don't need, or you increase your income. Now, I actually believe Zach last week mentioned it's sometimes actually easier to increase your income than decrease your expenses, especially in this inflationary world that we're living in.
yeah.
So I don't want anyone to think that we're not aware of the fact that things are expensive and sometimes expenses are just expenses. What
Mhm.
we're trying to say is sometimes it's no, not sometimes. You need to dive into your expenses to know what you need and what you don't need. If you
Yes.
get to the point where you find what you need is taking up all of your income, well, come to us and we'll help you figure out a way to earn more money. We'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll find strategies. We'll find what you're good at. We'll find what you're passionate about, and we'll help you. We'll help you find some sort of side business or maybe get a new job or get a promotion, whatever. We'll help you do that too. It's not just about getting your expenses down to zero. It's also
Yeah,
about making money. And I don't want to completely derail what the topic is,
Yeah.
saving money. But at the end of the day, you gotta, I'm sorry, you gotta look yourself in the mirror, right? You have to, and you have to know what you're spending your money on. That's the truth.
I like that a lot. And then also when you take that deep dive and you become more aware of what's a need versus a want. The interesting thing is when you were saying like if you were just to live off the essentials for 5 months, you'd save your goal rather than 15 months of using those wants. Maybe you're enjoying those. Maybe there's nothing
Yeah.
like maybe you are, but like your situation could change in 15 months. It's more likely to change in 15 months than it is in 5. So I would say that if you don't have the 3 to 6 months saved up, especially 3, like let's just hammer home on 3. If you don't have that saved and you can't just dismiss that as being like set aside, then I think you should go the essential only route because in 5 months or whatever it might even take you 3 months in some cases. That will be a pretty hard, fast approach, but then you're setting yourself up to obtaining this goal in a shorter window of time and the less likely of anything else going awry, So 15 months, there's a lot of like just I'm looking back at 15 months like in there's a lot of changes, a lot of things that weddings, traveling,
A
things
new
that
job, a house, and a
yeah.
kid in the past 15 months.
Yeah, so that's a very lengthy timeline, but if you know that there's not much in your life that's going to change, and I feel like mine every single month there's something different, but like if there's a lot changing, you have to make adjustments to that. Like maybe your essentials goes up because taxes go up. Over that 15 months. Like you're going to have to pay attention and understand that the longer it takes you, the more up and down, up and down. But that's also okay too as well, because there's sometimes a little bit of blissfulness in trying to attack this goal. And your goal might be to save 50,000, something a little bit more, and you might not reach that. You might only have 20, 25. But what's better than 25 is better than 0, and not like, so not hitting your goal is okay because you have something saved rather than nothing. So don't like let us tell you that like, oh, if you don't get 6 months of your expenses saved, that you're doing something wrong, because that's not the case. Like any dollar saved closer to this goal is closer to that goal, and if you don't hit that goal, maybe it's time to like understand and really reassess why. So I'll dish it back to you.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thank you.
I think you hit on all the important stuff. I'm really going to toot your horn there. I'm all motivated right now. It's
Yeah.
essentially taking it in, it's taking it in waves, right? It's okay. Well, what's my goal? Okay, it's X dollars. How do I get to that goal as fast as possible?
Yep.
Okay, is as fast as possible sustainable? No. Okay, what's sustainable? Okay, that's what I'm going to do is what's sustainable. That's going to take 7 months, 10 months, 15 months. Fine. Target that and be disciplined. Oh, well, in 15 months, I didn't reach my goal because of X, Y, and Z. Zach saying, take a deep breath. It's okay.
Yeah.
You made more progress in that 10 to 15 months than you did 15 months ago.
Yeah.
You're doing fine. What we're saying, well, at least what I'm saying, I don't want to speak for him, is it, or yeah, you are saying it. Any progress is good progress.
It is. Yeah.
Progress. And we're here to help. I'm going to keep harping on that. We're here to help you. We are resource. We do the podcast because we like to have fun, because this is nice banter for us.
Yeah.
And it's information out in the world. But like our bread and butter is one-on-one personal finance sessions with people for free. You mother. They're
angry finance. He's angry. He's angry. He's angry.
I'm going to mute that. I'm going to keep the fuck, but I'm going to mute the.
He's angry.
It's something else, but now I'm all amped up. Zach, we have to talk something really important. Where are these people putting this money? Where are you putting it? I have my opinions.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
your opinions. It should go into a high yield savings, everybody. And this is why. You put it into a traditional bank account, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, TD, whatever. You're going to get 0.01%. Do that math. You're going to get nothing. It's just going to sit there. That's fine, but you're not going to get more money. If you put it into a high yield savings account, right? High yield savings account.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere from 4 to 5% on your money. So let's do quick math. You have 10 grand in a high yield savings. $10,000 times 4% is what? Like $400?
Yeah.
Not the math. So if you were to keep, and the way it works is it's over the course of a year. Okay, it's not monthly. So if you have $10,000 on January 1st, 2024, at 4% on 12/31/2024, you will have $400 saved. Some people might ask me, what's the scheme? What's the scam? There is no scam. That's your money. It's taxable. The $400 is taxable. There is no scam. The financial institution that you're using either has low or no brick and mortar expenses, so they have low operating expenses, so they're able to offer more financial benefits to their customers or clients, whatever you call yourself. Or they're taking your money and they're reinvesting it into something and they're making money on your money and splitting the difference. That's fine. Who cares if they're doing that? You're making more money in a high yield than you would be in a traditional savings account. If you guys have no free ads for anybody.
No.
But if you need suggestions, reach out to me directly. I have a couple tips and tricks and
I think what's important though
Yeah.
is to understand like what a CD and locking your money in is a little bit different than what you're saying here. You still have access and you're still getting a decent return, one that's far better than keeping your money in a traditional bank savings account, I believe is what you're saying. Yes. So the high yield savings accounts, you'll have access to your money and you'll earn a little bit of interest on that of what you were not earning before. So that's just like a why not do this
I have
question.
no negative.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I have no negatives for it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up CDs. I have a list of the types of bank accounts that you can open. I'm going to read through them real quick.
Yep.
You have a checking account. That's just your typical bank account. That's where you pay your bills out of. That's where you receive your money. You have a savings account, which is in a traditional setting. It's they were set up to help you save your money. It's separate from a checking, but they're like linked together. They're like connected. High yield savings, we just talked about. It's a savings account that lets you earn interest on your money. It will allow your money to grow faster than a traditional savings account would. But to Zach's point, it's liquid. And I will get to that in a second. You can get that money instantly. You have money market accounts, and these accounts are a cross between a checking and a savings, and typically offer higher interest rates. These are offered through an investment account. It's easier to do a high yield savings.
I agree.
It's just easier to do a high yield savings. Then there's certificates of deposit. That's what Zach's talking about. These are CDs. These are the more traditional high yield savings, except it's not, because these accounts are types of savings accounts with fixed interest and term. And what that means is you get a CD for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. And you are penalized if you take that money out early. Now, CDs can offer a little bit higher interest rate than a high yield, but here's the math. Let's say you have $100,000 in the bank and a CD is $7,000 over the course of 12 months. It's 7% of your 100,000. So it's $7,000 you'll earn over the course of a year, but it stays locked up for 12 months. You can't touch that.
You can't touch it or you.
Yep. If you put that same money in a high yield and it's 5%, you earn $5,000 on that 100 grand over the course of a year. Now it's a $2,000 difference, but you tell me what's more important. I want you to tell me what's more important. Is it having access to the money, or is it growing to a higher amount? That's why personal finance is so beautiful. It's so nuanced. You could tell me, hey, Tony, I don't need the 100 grand for a year. I want the extra money. Good. Throw it in a CD. Or, no, Tony, I want this to act as my savings account. I want to be able to access it like that. Okay, you're going to a high yield. If you mistake the two, it causes trouble. So, Zach, I appreciate you bringing that up. What are your thoughts?
That is a great point. I feel like CDs should be classified more along the lines of investing, because you have to have, I know it's a low investment, but you have to have some sort. Yeah, I'm
not saying you're wrong, but it's not.
No, it's on the line. It's on the line though, because you're locking your money up. You know what I mean? Like you're not really, you do have access because you could take it out, I guess, but then you're gonna get just so many fees associated with that. So I would say that it's a good option if you want something safe but don't need the money.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I wouldn't classify it as investing. And here's why. Because you can invest in a stock in the stock market and get that back instantly, because you could sell the stock, right?
Yeah.
In theory. So like, I don't think the lockup term is necessarily going to categorize whether it's an investment or not.
True. That's it.
I get what you're saying. I just, slight disagree. I'm not telling you you're wrong, because that's your perspective.
I think it's more of alignment of being like a very safe route, because you don't need them.
I get what you're saying.
You don't need the money, but you're scared to lose it, so you put it in a CD.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, go ahead.
I wouldn't put my 3 to 6 months in there.
No. Not in a CD. No.
Yeah.
Good point. Very good point. Do not put your 3 to 6 months of emergency funds into a CD, because if an emergency pops up, you need that money like that. Now, I will caveat and say my my high yield savings, I think it takes 3 business days to process the transaction. So if I need to pull money, it could take up to 2 to 3 days to get it, but it's only
Okay.
2 or 3 days. So it's not that big of a deal. I bucket my money. I have 1 month of expenses in my checking account just in case something goes wrong today.
Mhm.
I have right now,
That's a good point.
I have 6 months. I have 6 months in my high yield as my emergency, what we're talking about right now. And then anything outside of that either gets spent because we have a lot of expenses, or it goes into an index fund, which we'll get to in another session. We're not going to dive into index funds.
Mhm.
And we are not giving financial advice.
No.
We're not. But there's a flow to my money and how things flow through. Sounds like it's similar for you. Anything after 3 months, you figure out how to invest that and get
Get
that
it
money.
working. Yeah.
I mean, you're more of a real estate guy though, so that's
Yeah. A little bit, but I have my fair share of the stock market.
you're diversified.
Yeah. I like trying to do things that are simple, and that you understand. I mean, it's
I
like you
agree.
see the stock market, and like I'm talking about like just mutual funds, index funds. Like I'm not trading every single day. Like I don't have the time for that.
No, and
It-
I don't think I would ever suggest anyone to day trade. That
yeah.
is listen, guys, listen. That's a great point, Zach. They pay people millions of dollars from highly educated with highly educated academic backgrounds that spent their entire careers to not beat the S&P 500.
Yeah.
And
Warren
if you
Buffett
can't
proved
tell me
that.
what that means, you probably shouldn't be day trading. If you don't know, like it's so I'm not saying don't buy single name stocks. I mean, I
Yeah.
own single name stocks that I believe in,
Yeah.
but I don't day trade. That's
Yeah. That's a little bit different. That's understanding the company that you are investing in. And you've done maybe a little bit of research to be like, you know what? I think that this is number one gonna be a sustaining company, and it's driving some sort of value. So being able to understand that rather than the whole crypto market, which I think is entirely speculation. But it could be like yielding you some good financial results, but in my opinion, I think crypto is a lot of speculation. So just be careful. But something along the lines of saying like, oh, like Pepsi, you know, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Walmart. These companies have been around for ages and they yield results because they're selling a lot of value to people. So those are maybe, I'm not saying to pick any of those as stocks for your own portfolio, but I'm just saying like do some sort of analysis as to like why you want to pick to invest into a certain stock rather than splitting your dollar 500 ways with an S&P 500. You're literally splitting your dollar 500 ways. Like that's a very easy route for me to take because I'm like, I'll just take my money and put it in an index fund or mutual fund and they return good results, like fair results for investing, I would say.
I agree. I only invest in index funds, and I
Mhm.
have one single name stock in my portfolio that I will not name, but I've done
Mhm.
my research and I feel very confident to the point where even if it dips down, we buy more. When
Nice.
I'm allowed to. When I'm allowed to.
Yeah. Is the next one about investing?
The next
The
one, yeah.
next podcast. That'd be interesting.
The next one it's funding an IRA.
That's close. Yeah. I think that that's very important for people that can especially take advantage of an employer. Yeah. Or you said IRA. Yeah.
Well, IRA,
The
401k,
401k.
all the above, right? It's
Yeah.
just putting money away for the future is kind of the main point.
It's free money from your
It's
employer in most cases.
if you have a match, it's free money.
Yeah.
That's an absolute fact. I think it's taxable though. That's where it gets weird. I think with like a Roth IRA, that it's the employer contributions, if there's gains, those are what's taxable. It's really weird,
Yeah.
but we'll dive into that next week. We don't have to. We're gonna have
Yeah.
we're gonna have to prep up for that call because there's a
Yeah, I
lot.
might have to do a little bit of digging into that. A little bit harder than creating a budget and then
Budgets are hard, dude. No one wants
Yeah.
to do that. They gotta be they have to be really hard because like
the
no one wants to-
concept's there, but it's really hard for each individual to do and to go through their essential versus non-essential
But they
items.
have to do it. They have to do it. I know it's hard. I agree with you, but like people have to do it.
Yeah, but it's easy for us to talk about that. Paying off debt, also let's like also savings, but
Right.
also like when you're talking about funding IRA and 401ks, that can get a little dicey.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do like a prep call for that, I think.
This is after the savings though, by the way, right? Or simultaneously, or it depends. It depends.
Well, it depends. And that's a really good point. I think people get hung up on social media and someone telling you what you're supposed to do and then being like, okay, well, I have to do that. These are called guidelines because they can be interchangeable. I really believe that. I think you can move them around. I think creating a budget is always number one because how do you know anything if you don't have a budget, right? I think saving $1,000 is not for everybody because I think people are starting at different places in their lives. Some people might have $1,000 saved already. So if you do that, then it doesn't apply to you. I think saving $1,000 is, hey, I don't know where to start, or I'm early, like I'm in the beginning stages. Where do I start? Okay, just save $1,000 and then talk to me. That's kind of why it's there.
Yeah.
We talked last week about paying off high interest credit cards. I think that's super important to do early on. But if you're like, hey, I'm 45 and I also need to save for retirement, like I get that. So everybody is a little bit different. I think saving 3 to 6 months of expenses is super important. Maybe you feel strongly that you should save before you pay off debt. I don't agree with that, but maybe that's how you feel. I'm not going to tell you no, you know. I would imagine that there's going to be a population of people that are already contributing to an IRA or their 401k or 403b. So they're already doing step 5. So like, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing that so you can backtrack and go to
exactly.
This is very fluid. And this is where I really try to sell us a little bit, right? Go to Polymath Finance and download the guidelines. They're like $10.
They're great.
Just download them. Okay. The 10 guidelines themselves are free. The deep dive into it's $10. So you get the 10 guidelines for free, right? So just do it. 2, book a session. We'll walk you through, based on where you're at in your life, how you should attack your financial goals. Everyone is different. I am different than Zach. He likes 3 months. I like 6 months. Whatever, you get it. We're all different. He'll invest in whatever. I invest in what you guys get it. It's just, what are your thoughts? Give me your response to this, and then give me your concluding thoughts. And I think we gotta wrap this up.
That was a very good, let's just say, piece of information that you saved for the last bit, because I was saying the same thing. Like, I think they're interchangeable. Like, when you're thinking about investing, like I was thinking this entire time, like saving 3 to 6 months is your net pay. So essentials would be already, like, I don't have to calculate those, but the essentials would be the taxes that are taken out, the health insurance that's taken out, I would say at least get the employer match. And those terms, you have to read them. You probably have to match 6% at least to get the full 3%, because it's a 0.5% every percent you invest. Very confusing. So I would say essential might be that free money, 6% at least to get that 3% match is essential. So I was basing this conversation off of at least your net pay. So after you're funding your 401k, after your health benefits. So that's where my start was from. So just thinking about like that, like and each person's situation is different. Maybe their employer doesn't offer a 401k. Maybe their employer doesn't offer health insurance. So that's something you factor in as an essential, especially if like you're not paying yourself. I do believe that paying yourself first is going to set you up for a better like retirement if that's your goal. But it can also like speed up that timeline because it's scary when you start to Google how much people have saved in their retirements, especially the baby boomer generation. Not calling them out, but it's
Find that
very
stat-
scary.
stat. Find that stat for next week.
Yes, it's
I
it's
know the
very
number.
scary. Yeah,
I know the percentage, and I know the amount. And I don't know if we should say the amount because I don't want to deter anybody or set a benchmark or
yeah,
maybe I don't want to make anyone feel bad. But
Yeah.
we'll give you the percent of people, and it's not what you think it is.
yeah. It's definitely not what I thought it was. And that's
Scary. It's scary. What are they going to do?
unfortunately because of I mean the thoughts around like Social Security is like you work your entire life and then for you to have somewhat of something saved plus since you paid into Social Security you get it, but like whether that's going to be around is a scary thought for people that are like
For us.
let's just say living in that type of mindset.
I don't know if we're going to get Social Security.
That would be very upsetting for a lot
A
of
lot.
people. So that's always been my tactic is don't really rely on that.
Don't
you know?
factor it. You don't have to. Until they give you your first paycheck, don't factor in Social Security. That's my advice.
Yeah.
10 years ago when I was at Northwestern Mutual, 10 years ago, right? So imagine where we're at today. They didn't factor Social Security into people's retirement planning. So imagine what it is today. We're not saying you're not going to get it. And we're not saying it's not
Yeah.
listen, if you're 65 and you're retiring tomorrow, like you could probably factor it in. Like,
Yeah.
there's a certain demographic that's a little bit younger that
Yeah.
go, well, I mean, if you're 30, I don't know if you really should be factoring Social. There's probably some 65-year-old there's panicking. Oh my God, am I gonna get? You're probably gonna get it back.
That's really scary to think about, because that's pretty much how everybody's funded right now is they've bought in to pay off the house in 30 years, retire, social security for all the other expenses, and then if you have to, dip into whatever you've saved. So like that is a very dangerous path in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Zach,
It's working for right now, but it could also lead to inflation later on a mass scale, hyperinflation, if we don't have the money to spend. You know?
is that how we're gonna end it? We're gonna scare people?
Yeah, let's scare everybody. Hyperinflation.
Hyperinflation. Zach, why'd you? I might cut this out.
Yeah, that's okay. That's amazing though. All right, well, we love you. Love you all.
Want to end it on hyperinflation? That's great. Okay, everybody.
It's just exciting. It's just exciting.
I'm ending it. This was great.
It was a good one, minus some technical difficulties on my behalf.
That's okay. We're gonna make it a funny little edit. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. Please watch the podcast.
Yes.
It's on YouTube and it's on Apple Podcasts. Spotify, we're holding out. We want that payday. And yeah, hope this is helpful. Love you.
Thank you. Bye. Dude, that was great. Hello.